I'm 59 years old. I'm a lifetime exerciser, and I have heart disease. So my first thought is, okay, this has to be wrong. But then my second thought was, but what if it's not? Heart disease can be a silent killer, especially for people like me, midlife women who don't have any symptoms, who everybody just assumes are low risk. So about 2 months ago, I got a fancy new smart scale, and it told me that I have the arteries of a 67-year-old woman. I am 59. Actually, I was 58 at the time, so that's 9 years older than my actual age. Honestly, I had no idea that this was even something that you could measure at home. So while most people are obsessing about the number on a scale, I'm obsessing about a completely different number, one that actually tells you something about how likely you are to have a heart attack. Hi, I'm Jerry. I'm 59. I'm an American, but I live in Paris, France. And up until 2 months ago, I thought I was in pretty good health. I look healthy. I've always been in great shape. And I'm not someone who's ever struggled with any major health issues. But that scale, it was a Withings Body Scan scale, by the way. It showed me something that you can't see in a mirror. And that ended up leading to a calcium heart scan test and a complete overhaul of the way that I think about my health. This video is the first in a series where I'm documenting this journey. And I want to be clear about why I'm doing this. It's because heart disease can be a silent killer, especially for people like me, midlife women who don't have any symptoms, who everybody just assumes are low risk. So here's what happened. In early December, I ordered this fancy scale, right? And I had been at my heaviest weight for a while at that time, 2 months ago. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was enough to tell me that I needed to do something about it. I looked fine compared to other women my age, and probably fine compared to women who are much younger than me. I was about 10 pounds heavier than I am now. But I could feel that it wasn't where I wanted to be. And I also knew that I was getting older. And even though everybody would always tell me that I looked great for my age, I know that what you see on the outside is only part of your health story. So I thought about getting this fancy scale, and I thought about, I'll use it to track my weight loss and getting back in shape, because it does like your BMI, your body mass index, and your fat percentage and your muscle percentage. And it also does an EKG, an electrocardiogram. I always thought it was EKG. I guess they call it an ECG, which makes more sense. But anyway, it also measures a bunch of other things like bone density. But it measures this thing that's called vascular age. And at that time, I didn't even know what that meant. So I step on the scale for the first time, and there it is. My vascular age, 67. And it also gives a little description of what that means. And it says not optimal. So I'm standing there staring at this going like, okay, it must be wrong. So I step off, I step back on, off, step back on. I must have weighed myself 3 or 4 times. And I found out, yeah, my vascular age is about 67 years old. So my first thought is, okay, this has to be wrong. But then my second thought was, but what if it's not? Okay, so what is vascular age? The simple version is that it's a measure of how stiff or flexible your arteries are. Your arteries are supposed to be flexible, like elastic bands. Flexible, springy, able to handle blood flow. As we age, or if you have plaque building up, they start to get stiff. Like old rubber bands. Like, old rubber bands will crack sometimes when you try to stretch them. Well, my scale measures something called pulse wave velocity. And that basically says how fast blood moves through your arteries. The faster it moves, the stiffer your arteries are. And the stiffer they are, the older your age. So that's basically what mine was saying, is that your arteries are aging faster than you are. That scale, I realized at that point, it's not about vanity. It is about whether or not I'm at risk for a heart attack or a stroke. So here's the thing that hit me. I have spent my whole life in shape, looking in shape, and I wasn't somebody who weighed myself every day, but I knew what I weighed. And at any stage in my life, I pretty much knew. But that number on the scale, it won't tell you if your arteries are clogged. And it's not going to tell you if you're building up plaque. And that number of what you weigh is not going to tell you if you're on track for a heart attack in 5 years. But your vascular age does. So here's the crazy thing. You can look great and still have a terrible vascular age. You can look really healthy and have early stage heart disease. You can look fine on the outside and sort of have a ticking time bomb on the inside. Now, that's kind of my story. I felt fine, but my arteries were telling a different story. So I'm not going to lie. That 67, seeing that 67, it threw me for a bit of a loop. I mean, it really kind of, it shook me a bit. I am not used to not being in excellent health. Like, I've always taken care of myself and I've been in great shape. And then I got this scale that's telling me that I'm, part of me is aging 8 years faster than I thought. So what happened? Well, I felt old all of a sudden and scared, and like my body was betraying me in some way. And it's really easy to get scared in that case. But here's what I did. I didn't panic and I didn't ignore it. And I didn't say, oh, it's just a scale. What does it know? Because I knew that even if it wasn't 100% accurate, it was giving me information that I needed to pay attention to. So I asked myself a really important question. If I can measure this, can it be changed? Can I do something to change it? So that's when I started researching. I really sort of went down a bit of a rabbit hole. I started researching about vascular age and arterial stiffness and atherosclerosis and plaque buildup. And I learned that this plaque buildup stuff, it doesn't happen overnight. And it doesn't happen quickly. It happens over the course of years, often decades. And it doesn't have to be a life sentence. You can slow it down and you can stabilize it. In fact, you should. In some cases, from what I understand, you might even be able to reverse it. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm not just going to lay down and accept this. I'm going to do something about it. So that vascular age reading led me to get a test that most doctors don't even mention. It's called a coronary calcium score or scan. It is a CT scan that determines how much plaque you have in your arteries. It's non-invasive, and it just basically tells you how much atherosclerosis you actually have. I got mine at Harbor-UCLA in Los Angeles, and it's usually about $200. The results come in like 24 to 48 hours. And when I got my results, it told me what the scale told me. I have early stage atherosclerosis. I'm 59 years old. I'm a lifetime exerciser. And I have heart disease. But here's the thing. I caught it early, before symptoms, before a heart attack, my gosh, before irreversible damage. So here's what I'm going to talk about in my next video. I'm going to talk about the calcium score that I got and what it revealed, and why your doctor probably won't order this test, and what it means for women like me who look healthy but aren't as healthy as they look. Look, if you're watching this and you are over 40, please, I want you to ask yourself something. Ask yourself if you know your vascular age. Ask yourself if you know if you have plaque in your arteries. Because the scary thing is most people don't. They don't ask themselves those questions, and they don't know. Most people find out that they have an issue when they're having chest pains or when they're in the ER with a heart attack. I don't want to be that person. So that's why I'm doing something about it. And I'm bringing you along for the ride. So anyway, like I said, in my next video, I'll talk more about the calcium score test and the results and what I'm doing about it. So if you will, if you want to, subscribe if you want to follow this journey, and comment if you've ever had your vascular age checked, or if you're thinking about getting a calcium score. And if you're a midlife woman like myself, and you think you're fine because you look fine, please pay attention to this series. Looking healthy and being healthy are not one in the same. I'll see you in the next video.